Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Knights of the Alternate Table with Simon here. So, I was gone for a while, and that was mainly due to school and stuff, especially being on the debate team. So, I would like to thank you all for watching, and I have gained a bunch of subscribers, and we're nearly at 50 while recording. We are at 49 currently, so if you want to subscribe, great. But, welcome to What If George Washington Became King, Part 2. Another reason I've been gone for so long is because I wanted to take this channel in a different direction. Rather than just having country pictures, I decided to make maps of the worlds that I imagine. So here's the map of what it looks like after the first video. I am sorry if it's not up to your standards, but this is an alternate timeline. So as you can see, Corsica isn't independent but a puppet of France, and so is the Rhineland. And Iberia is fully united. Even though there was a large victory for France and allies, it would soon split up, as both Iberia and Italy would like to expand into French territory. Meanwhile, Austria-Hungary would like its territory back, and the Ottoman Empire would want to reclaim the Italian peninsula, as they saw themselves as a successor. Meanwhile, Germany wanted to form its whole self by taking Austria-Hungary lands, and Russia would want to get more involved in the war, as they lost war. Meanwhile, France, Italy, and Turkey would both want Egypt, so this would put tension between France and Italy, who would ally themselves with Iberia, creating a quick standoff where France would quickly have to look to find allies. And there weren't many options, as most of the world wanted to take them and their land and their puppets' lands out. So they would have to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find what they could of allies. Even though America is kind of the title of the video, they wouldn't play a large part in the world anymore, as they would be too busy trying to secure their new lands due to Canadian rebels who don't want to just stay in what's now Canada, but would want all of their old land back, so they would pose a huge threat for America, much as the Irish did for the British in our World War I, though America would be less reluctant to let them go free. France and the Ottomans, both wanting Egypt and to kick Italy out of the region, would decide to ally themselves for their mutual hatred, and because France couldn't find any other friends that were powerful enough around them. So they would be forced to ally themselves with the Ottoman Empire, which would pose problems, as it was the dying man of Europe, and since they weren't a part of World War I, it didn't die in our timeline, nor the Balkan Wars. So it is still at relative power, even though it's still Germany wanting land from the Rhine, aka a French puppet, and wanting land from Austria-Hungary to annex the rest of the German-speaking nation to truly form Germany instead of just being Prussia, calling themselves Germany, would start eyeing up them and preparing to invade. This would push Austria-Hungary to join an alliance with France to hopefully stand a chance of the coming war. Before we go on in our timeline, we need to first talk about Nicholas II and Russia. In our timeline, he was previously killed and destroyed due to the fact that he wasn't ready to rule and he was a terrible military commander. Now, learning from the experience of the Russo-Japanese War and watching other tactics unfold, he would prepare his army for a modern war and be better advised to not take command and be a better king. With the Allies being composed of Prussia, Egypt, Iberia, Italy, Britain, and Russia, they would prepare to go to war with the Entente, making up of Ottomans, Austria, and France, to hopefully finally destroy them once and for all and to take back all of their rightful territory. Corsica wouldn't join in, even though they were a puppet of France. They were more independent in this timeline, so they would not directly go to war. The Rhine would focus on the northern front with Germany, so they would advance slightly there. Meanwhile, the southern front, Germany would have to cross the Rhine River, but would be slow at it and would overall fail even though they do take land. Meanwhile, France would go into southern Catalonia, and Spain would focus on the northern border, while Britain captures islands in the English Channel to hopefully stop and break them, thus stand still at the Italy-France. Italy and Germany would begin their invasion of Austria. Meanwhile, Italy would also invade Albania/Greece. Meanwhile, the Ottomans would march into Europe, while France would take northern Italy claims, not focusing on the Moroccan front, even though they take more. Britain would then, using Cyprus, invade the Ottoman Empire as they had a stronger navy than the Ottomans, because the Ottoman navy at the time was very weak. Russia would then invade from the north. German Africa would start trying to invade Madagascar as they did not have a direct border with French Africa, using the Mozambique Channel to take some islands and preparing to invade Madagascar. Meanwhile, France in sub-Saharan Africa would do better against Italy than they did in the Saharan, taking much more land. The same would stand for Iberia, with France taking more land there than in northern, as they didn't really focus on Morocco in this timeline. With the first 6 months of the war over already, Wilhelm III would start talking with Gustav VI of Sweden, even though he is not king yet. They were good friends in our timeline and would make an alliance directly involving Sweden into helping Germany fight the Entente powers and helping them win the war. Sweden officially joining Prussia would make France nervous, who would start trying to seek their own allies out. But Sweden and Prussia would form a close bond over this and form a strong alliance for future wars to come. As they did in our timeline, Sweden was sympathetic to the Central Powers in World War I, but they did not directly join. In this timeline, this bond would be confirmed and they would stay as allies for the rest of time. France, looking for allies, would force some of its subjects, quote-unquote, mainly being Corsica as a puppet, and Belgium hoping to gain more land and hoping to possibly annex the Rhine, would quickly start and form to become a central power and a dominant power in Europe. So, Ireland wouldn't be much effective, as they would just be rebels against Britain, but they would be an annoyance to slow down British. Austria would quickly start losing lands to both Russia and Prussia, and Italy, hurting them greatly. Italy's invasion of the Ottomans would slowly grind to a halt and even more land taken back, as they would have to defend Sardinia from Corsica, who would start taking lands with the help of the French Navy. The Iberian border would expand in the ways that they were already going. Meanwhile, the Irish rebellion would quickly be squashed by the British, as they would not have enough support as being a French puppet. The northernmost British invasion would be completely crushed by the Ottomans, and they would then advance past the Suez Canal into main Egyptian territory. Meanwhile, the French would start to win on the Saharan front, but lose more land on the sub-Saharan front, overall hurting them. They would then also begin their invasion of Morocco, though it would be a slow and grueling war, more like trench warfare in our World War I. In the next 6 months of the war, Germany would successfully invade North Madagascar, as well as establishing 3 beachheads across the coast of French Africa. Meanwhile, Iberian Africa would still lose a lot of land, but the Italians would start gaining a lot more land and a lot more traction, as the French war machine would slowly start to slow down, as they couldn't support all of these fronts. Meanwhile, with Kaiser Wilhelm's love for the Netherlands, he would finally convince them to join the war and help them invade Belgium and the Rhine. This would lead to a fast alliance, with France getting even more scared, as a bigger front means more troops, and they started to run out. This would overall start hurting France more and more, and this would begin the beginning of the end for France and its empire. Meanwhile, Denmark, not realizing that it was the beginning of the end for France, would start getting greedy, as they would want to take some Swedish land and reignite their rivalry, as there wasn't enough time to piece them out with America being a monarchy, as there wouldn't be any wars to help eventually settle these two into peace agreement. So they would declare war on Sweden, hoping to surprise them while Sweden was busy fighting World War. Austria-Hungary, seeing what was happening, would push into Russian land, hoping to try and knock them out of the war soon, but they wouldn't experience the front of Italy and Germany pushing even harder. Meanwhile, the Netherlands would basically take half of the Belgium, and a little bit of the Rhine would be left. Meanwhile, France would slowly start losing the Iberian front, and the Ottomans would slowly start losing Greece to the Italians, and Corsica would grow even larger and take over Sardinia. In Saharan Africa, France would also start taking more land from Italy, but in sub-Saharan Africa, Italy would take even huger swaths of land. Meanwhile, the Ottomans would fully start taking over Egypt with great strides, though they would quickly start to fall. Iran would now be starting to look at invading the Ottomans to hopefully get a piece of the territory. Russia would then start taking more territory from the Ottomans. Iberian Africa would finally start making progress, while France would take some land in the south as this horrible strategy that they had. Meanwhile, Germany would take most of northern Madagascar and would unite their beachheads, while Italy would take over and unite the front with the Germans to quickly try and end France's southern front in Africa. Thanks you everyone for watching this video. So I'm just going to take a while and say thank you once again. And we're almost to 50 subscribers, so if you feel like it, please subscribe and like the video if you want to see more content. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to make this into a part 3. I really didn't want to, but the maps took up so much space, and apparently my editing software has a limited amount of space, so yeah, thank you for watching. Whoa, don't go yet. I mean, there's still this video to watch over here on the right, and a whole World War I playlist if you like World War I as much as I do. So just thank you all for watching, and have a good time, and bye!